So, for people that are not familiar with the work that you've done, can you give a little bit of backstory on who you are and what you've done? And then after that, I want to kind of go back into the beginning years of your career and your journey as an artist.
Cool. Yeah. Well, for the most part, I am, like you said, a freelance videographer. I do a lot of things, mostly behind the scenes work now. I work with RCA Records, Warner Records. So, most notably Pentatonix, touring with them, doing their behind the scenes. But, I started doing like freelance work of all sorts, weddings, events, and then that kind of led into some behind the scenes, miscellaneous things all over. Recently, I just did Sweetie and Her behind the scenes for Warner, which that song drops in a few days. So it's been kind of the majority of my editing this past week. And I'm working to be a film director. So I've made a feature film, short film, writing a bunch. That's kind of the general extent of it at the moment. Yeah.
I love that, man. I love that, like, you're in that middle part of your journey where it's like you've had a good amount of success. You started off, you've had a good amount of success, and then you still have these really cool goals that you're reaching for. So it's this cool dichotomy of, like, where you want to be, but also recognizing where you came from.
Yeah.
Side note, I noticed that you went to Ithaca College. Are you from New York?
I am originally Rochester, New York.
Ah, very cool. I'm a Long Island boy.
Nice, man.
Born and
Yeah. Yeah.
raised. Born and raised.
I lived there for 8 years and then I moved around a lot as a kid. So, but Rochester's always been the home base. And so I went back to Ithaca kind of to reestablish my roots a little bit.
Yeah, very cool. So many kids, especially the music kids in my school, went to Ithaca. It was a big
Mhm.
music school for my class. So I would love to hear a little bit of your backstory, like your origin story, essentially, of how did you get into your career and how did you discover this is something I wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of funny because it starts back when I was in high school I went to international school in Brussels in Belgium. And there was like some classes where you would make videos. And so that was always really fun for me, but I always thought it was just kind of fun. So when I went to Ithaca, I studied athletic training for 2 days, 3 days. And I took a physics class or anatomy class. And I was like, man, I do not want to do this at all. This is ridiculous. A neighbor of mine in the dorm was a film student. And so he was like, and I was helping him with one of his projects. I kind of acted in it. And he was like, it was just so much fun. And I was like, I could do this as a major. And so that's when I got into cinema and photography, concentrated in cinema production, realized this is my calling. I mean, they train you to be like a director and learn how to work on set and stuff. So with all that being said, I immediately moved to LA after college. My parents still lived in Belgium, so I wasn't going to be able to really go back and work there, like a lot of kids do. They go home and work. So I moved to LA. I started at a independent startup production company for a guy who had made a feature film. He kind of sold his whole life, made a feature film, and was in the process of post-production. So I learned what I didn't want to do, which was being in the office, producing, coordinating, things like that. I really wanted to be on set. I really wanted to hold the camera. I mean, I really wanted to direct, but directing seems just so hard. When you first start out, it's like there's a handful of directors that are really working. So I knew I could do something with the camera. So I actually quit that job and started working at a restaurant. And in that process, two things happened. One, a buddy of mine from college was he was a documentary studies major. His name's Brad Patoka, a good friend of mine. He wanted to come out and visit, but he wanted to make a project. And so him and he hits me up and goes, I heard there's the Salton Sea out in California, which is like the largest man-made lake in California. It's like evaporating. And I didn't even know what that was. So long story short, we go down to the Salton Sea, which is like 2 hours from here. And we realize there's like this crazy issue going on with the sea shrinking and all the chemicals getting into the air and the pollution and everything. So we, on the fly, make a documentary. That inspires me when I get back to my job at Crave Cafe. There's a professional Muay Thai fighter who was working with me. And I was like, dude, can I just make something with you for free? Like, let's do it. So I followed him for a month training and went to a fight of his. I made this video this is like one of the first videos I made out of college and by myself. And I realized like, damn, this is pretty good. Like I actually like really enjoy this. And I think I've got something here. So that led me to pursue a videography career. There's a lot more work in videography than film. And so a friend of mine from college, she was a intern at RCA. And so I reached out to her and was like, hey, anything at all. Can I just get in the music industry? That'd be cool. She put me in touch with someone. It took a full year before anything at all manifested with that. And it was very small things. It was like a club event for Tinashe, like go film her featured song. So while that was going on, I was finding other event work, videography work. I was taking photos for a frat party company. I mean, it's crazy to think back, like all of the different
Yeah.
things I've done.
Yeah.
Worked for an event filming company that did weddings, and I filmed a funeral once, I mean, the spectrum was crazy. Anyway, finally, something happens with RCA. It was small, but they like what I do, and they kept hitting me up to like very randomly too. I probably did like 2 or 3 things in the first year, then maybe 3 or 4 in the second, small to large. But most notably, what happened was in 2018, I did a behind the scenes video for Frankie featuring Scott Hoying, and the song was called Ghost. So I do that video, good rapport on set, nothing crazy, like both artists were really nice, made a good video. Started doing a few other things in that month. Things got busy. And then I got reached out to by Pentatonix's management. And they were like, hey, we got your info from someone at RCA and we're interested in having a tour videographer. Are you interested? I was put into the running. I think Scott was able to be like, oh, I worked with him. That's cool. And from there, I went on tour with them in the summer of 2018. And then with Pentatonix, kind of the rest is history. And because I was doing all these other things for RCA and then Warner, I've been doing more behind the scenes over and over and over again. So
Incredible story. I want to start off with a compliment. And I've heard a lot of different stories here on the channel. I've done a lot of these interviews, and yours is one that the way you tell it, and also just the facts of it. It's it keeps you interested the whole time. Like, oh, that happened next, and then that happened next, and oh wow. So I want to compliment you on that. Your storytelling ability is fantastic. Which, as a videographer, is probably the most important aspect of any video is the storytelling that you tell in the video. But it definitely comes across in your speaking ability as well.